Hello, I'm Danielle and welcome to Art Break. I run Soda, which is a curatorial consultancy in Sydney. And today we are talking to the wonderful Cameron Robbins. So please just bear with me while I bring him up. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome. We got it to work. This is excellent. Cameron, welcome. So to start off with, I'm just going to do a brief introduction to you, to anyone that isn't familiar with your work. So you have been working as an artist for 30 years, which is an incredible achievement. And if we were
Still alive, I'm still here.
And I think a kind of very simple way of describing what you do is you make the unseen seen. And there are really, I was thinking before, there are really three parts to your work. You have these incredible kinetic sculptural instruments that themselves are beautiful art objects. And then those objects are placed in a location somewhere, in a field, on a mountaintop, in a fermentation room, as you can talk to a little bit about later. And then these invisible forces act on these instruments, and then there is some sort of outcome from them. They create a drawing, perhaps there's a photograph, or maybe there's some kind of sound composition. And then often you document this process of the instruments making the work. So you've got these kind of beautiful videos that also go with them. And I'm very excited because we are working on a project and we'll be showing some of your work later this year in the exhibition at the Shoalhaven, Wonder and Dread, in the gallery there in Nowra. So, but look, your drawings are mesmerising and they're full of personality and character. And if you haven't seen any of them, I encourage anyone to go and have a look at your website or your Instagram feed. You have had a distinguished career. You've exhibited all over the world. You've had major commissions. You're the first Australian artist to have a major solo exhibition commission at Mona in Tasmania, where you've just finished installing a 50-year drawing installation that I would love to hear more about. And then in all your spare time, you're also a musician.
Yeah.
That's you, Cameron.
Yes, well, it's been a good run, hasn't it? Now that you say it, I've had some fantastic opportunities and worked with great people over the last, at least 10 years. But I've been working as a professional artist since really 1990 when I left VCA. I did my post-grad there, so I'm losing track of how many years that is, but it's pretty much 30 now, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, and well, I think you gave a great description of my practice. Thanks for that. I guess I'd add to that. It's like I do make these sculptural kinetic instruments that they're like drawing machines, but it's better to think of them as instruments because they're not automatic like a washing machine. It's not like a cycle you just put on. It's like you've got to actually work with it. So it's very much like an instrument, and I was sort of pleased with that because, I did grow up playing music. I was in a musical household. My father was a great piano player in the stride sort of jazz tradition, and I learned how to play jazz and improvise. And the idea of the instrument is, pretty always present in my mind when I'm making things. It's sort of like you create, an instrument you can work with, and you have to practice and you have to get better, and when you've got a show coming up you sort of hit your stride, and I think in ballet they call it métier, which is the this sort of level of performance, and it's like that with the drawing machines. Like, it's interesting, the drawings get more and more interesting and exciting the more I work with the actual instrument. The one at Mona is interesting, that big drawing machine there, the big instrument. It's called Wind Section Instrumental. Yeah, and that's a huge permanent commission, and I'm so thrilled to have that there. What an incredible I don't want to say episode. my life, working with Mona. It's been incredible, and I hope to do something else in the future. And I was.
How long was that project in development for, from kind of beginning to installation?
Well, it was at a really long lead time, actually, and it was a great one because I got to do a prototype first for an exhibition at Mona, which was called the Red Queen, and I've had a long association with Mona. Like when they opened, the first MoFo in Mona Foma, which was down on the wharf at Salamanca on that side, they actually asked me to do a pipe organ that was connected to the sea, which I'd done at Lawn, a while ago, and so I did that, and since then they sort of kept asking me to do other things, and then Nicole Durling rang up one day and said, I'd like you to be in an exhibition. What would you like to do? And just sort of my dream project was really to have a room that was connected to the outdoors, and then had mechanical parts coming inside powered by wind. That was actually making a drawing on the inside. So the museum kind of keeps its atmosphere and temperature control and humidity and all that. But it's actual weather coming in through a mechanical device. So I got to make this great prototype, which was a bit more ad hoc, but it was a huge, 18 metres of axles and 6 metre high tower with a wind speed and wind direction component that were then coming inside and drawing inside the building. And that was a really popular exhibit and seen by many tens of thousands of people that they have there. And then, David Walsh actually asked me if I'd be able to make that permanent. And so that was a couple of years later. And I said, yeah, of course, and it was a great moment. We walked over to the new site, which was at the Robin Boyd Roundhouse there.
Yes.
At Mona above the library. And David Walsh actually stood on the grass and said, I'll put your tower here with the wind parts on it, and then we'll have the axles going in there. And it was great to work with him on that. He's an amazing person. Fierce intellect and amazing photographic memory and pretty good with numbers. And it was kind of scary. It was a scary project because I was walking up the hill to Mona every day, sort of working on the project, and I was looking at the skyline with in order it was Charles Ross, the American artist, just had his new prism work up there. James Turrell, the big sky, what's that called? Asana, I think, the sky window. And then also Anselm Kiefer, one of my favourite works ever, has its own pavilion at Mona, and I'm right smack in the middle of those, and very exciting. So David Walsh was actually explaining the curatorial rationale that he had, and that was that Charles Ross deals with the sun, James Turrell deals with the sunset and the sunrise. That piece is designed for viewing with those, and Kiefer deals with the night, which is because his piece is about a meteor coming through a library roof at night and smashing the library to pieces. And of course Ryoji Akita's down there as well with a great night light. And so the whole play between night and day is what actually gives us our weather on planet Earth, because of the heat differential. The wind goes from hot to cold basically, and I'm the wind. So it's just amazing. And it was kind of scary doing it, of course, because I had to pull my socks up. But I think we came up with a fantastic work that's made to last. It's all marine grade stainless steel and brass and nice motors and bespoke cabinet work for the storage of the archive, which is a 50-year archive of wind drawings, each about 2 weeks long, which is 5 meters of drawing on a sort of a paper chart rolling device that was all invented bespoke for this project. So I'm kind of a bit exhausted after that. So exciting. I love it.
It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. I mean, I haven't been down to see it in the flesh yet, but I have seen the documentation that you've got of it, and it just looks incredible. So as soon as flights open, there's just going to be lots of pinging all over the country, I think.
Don't take the cruise ship. Don't take the cruise ship down there. Unless you've got your own hand sanitizer.
So, oh, great background. So, where are you at the moment, actually? Are you in your studio?
Yeah, I'm actually in my studio, which is, I'll give you a bit of a view there. This is my studio. This is up in Castlemaine, or down in Castlemaine if you're in Sydney. It's in central Victoria, which is sort of in the Goldview region. It's about 90 minutes out of Melbourne by car or train. And yeah, just moved up here a few years ago, and managed to get a house and a studio together. And that's sort of what I was after. And so, yeah, it's a really great studio.
It's enormous.
Here. I can sort of make almost everything. I like to be able to make my own prototypes. That was one thing that I had to do with Mona was get good at outsourcing and working with people who, the expert engineers and make things like really long lasting and very high spec. Whereas, I'm a really trained artist from art school who loves making things. And so, I still have a workshop like this where I can kind of actually make everything by hand. But yeah, for bigger work, it's going to be a prototype, and then I'll get people to, upscale it.
Yeah. Do you know, I think that's a really common thing that a lot of artists, that when you sort of get to this point where suddenly you do need to be kind of outsourcing the actual production component, and you take on this sort of artistic director kind of mode of a work. And I think that's it's a struggle because as you say, you're so used to doing everything yourself and being really hands-on.
Yeah, well, it's a really interesting discussion to have, because I think doing these sort of projects, I've realised that I'm probably not much of a designer. Like I'm definitely an artist, but like art and design's often said in the one breath, like the same thing. Let alone the government doesn't even call it anything. But like art and design, everyone just says, "Oh, art and design." Yeah, I'm into art and design, and I'm really not a great designer. Like I don't like sitting down with a blank piece of paper. I just can't sort of design something. I've got to actually get things and put them together and make a prototype. And sort of I use it like a lot of these little parts here. Well, you see all those? I collect all, make things and have them all ready to go, and then put things together as a prototype and see how it works. And then something could be scaled up from there. Some of my best projects have started out as cardboard models.
Yeah. Well, that's excellent. And so do you want to perhaps tell us about a standout project? I mean, I know you've recently, apart from the Mona project, you've recently done, is it CO2 fermentation?
Oh, yeah, well, that's been pretty exciting. I've done this one here, fermentation CO2 drawing, which is basically it's a drawing instrument that I've developed kind of in collaboration with a winemaker that I've met by moving here to Castlemaine. This winemaker kept coming to my exhibitions and saying, "Oh, if you're interested in wind and waves and things, like you've really got to see wine fermenting, because it's very interesting how it kind of waxes and wanes and has its own dynamic over the weeks." And anyway, eventually I did go and meet up with him at his lab up there in Harcourt, which is a few k's up, and it's been quite interesting. So I immediately sort of made a drawing instrument that has a rotating page that you can, like the paper's about 60 by 60 centimetres, and it can rotate at different speeds. And so it does about one revolution every 2 days or 48 hours. And then meanwhile, the drawing is actually being powered, like the line is being made by gas released from the wine fermenting, which is carbon dioxide as the yeast eats the sugar in the grape juice. And it's a very interesting story, because like about 12 or 15 different yeasts will kind of go into the wine as it's developing and fermenting, and that they actually give the wine its flavours apparently. But it's a bit like the way bread goes mouldy, like it just comes in from the air. So it's a very natural process, and it sort of fits in with my general approach to working with kind of natural energies and things. And it's it's a world of biology that is totally intriguing. And anyway, every drawing's been completely different and so exciting. I come in the mornings to the winemaking facility and just like, wow, like what's happened overnight? Something crazy's gone on, and it's really exciting. You know, they do take on a life of their own, and
How do you,
in the wine world, it's good. Yeah, I like it.
yeah, and how do you feel about these when you, because what I just think is so remarkable about your work, it's this sort of conversation, like you set up, almost you put a call out, you set up you create the instruments, you create the structure, and then you sort of hand it over to the powers that be or the elements that be, and then you sort of see what comes back. And when you look at these drawings, how do you feel, or what are your thoughts when you see, because they're so different, they're all so different, and they're so unique, and they have such character, and it's happened without you, and it's just, yeah, what do you think about that?
I guess it's a little bit like gardening. Like, you know, you set up the initial parameters, and then you let it go, and that's what gives it the magic. And I guess, you know, there's that whole, I can't remember who said it now, but the idea of in your studio, you've got to let nature happen. You know, especially regards to painting, where you let effects take over sometimes, and nature's got to kind of happen in front of you to make, give your work that extra little. Can't think of the right word, but we know what it is when we see it. Je ne sais quoi. It's a French word. And so, I think it's got to have that. So it's a real. I love it when I go in the mornings and it's something unusual has happened, because then it's kind of really exciting element to the drawing. I mean, it's kind of quite easy to make something that, draws consistently, but then it might not be interesting. So I'm sort of always on the edge of total chaos, which, in terms of a drawing instrument means, the pen coming off the paper and getting jammed somewhere else, mad scribble kind of overwriting itself all the time. So there's sort of this interesting line between a narrative and a time-based work unfurling during the process and doing something interesting. And then there's the other side of it, is kind of chaos. And, I've had plenty of chaos with wind drawings in the weather when, there's this big storm and the paper gets wet and the pen will pen will eat through the paper and turns into paper mache, and it's, quite bizarre and disastrous. But, people love a bit of chaos and degeneration.
They do. People do love a bit of chaos, and those are exactly the sorts of works I think we're talking about for Wonder and Dread. But unbelievably, that was 15 minutes. In fact, it's a little bit over. So I know it's so fast, but look, thank you so much, Cameron. I really appreciate you making the time. And
nice program you've got here, and I really enjoyed the one with Julie and Day last week or 2 weeks ago. Yeah, great. I look forward to the next one.
Fantastic. Thank you. Take care.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.